Can Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic have all-star seasons for the Chicago Bulls this year? And if they do, what does that mean for their trade value around the league? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Hayes, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions do apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Bulls fans, man, late night episode today. Listen, it has been a day. I don't know about y'all, but it's been a day for me. It's been a week. This is probably one of the more stressful weeks that I've had. It's been something that gone wrong every single day. But, you know, it is what it is when it comes down to it. It doesn't stop the content around here at Locked On Bulls. And that means we got to discuss our Chicago Bulls. And I want to start off talking about this one. Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic have been having really solid seasons for the Chicago Bulls. Really, when you look at it, specifically Nikola Vucevic, statistically, he is one of the best five centers in the game of basketball this year. When you look at scoring-wise, when you look at offensive efficiency, he's in the top of the league. Now, defensively, he's still having his shortcomings, make no mistake about it, right? And I think the season that Nikola Vucevic has is so important just because of how much he's doing for this Bulls team, how much he's showing up in the clutch for the Bulls team. Now, everything is basically up for Vooch except the rebounding. Vooch, while offensively everything is going really good for him, Vooch is having his worst rebounding season since the 2017-18 season. Right. And I just want to, I'm not saying that to crap on them or anything like that, but just when we're going to have a conversation about somebody and how good they're being, I do think it is honest to put that in perspective and some of the other stats in perspective. But outside the rebounding, Vooch is having his best shooting career year from the floor at 58%. He hasn't, the closest he's ever been to that is 52%. He's shooting 6% over his career high while still taking around the same amount. He's actually taking less shots, so he's more efficient with less shots. He's shooting the best three-point shooting percentage of his career at 47%, taking 4.5 three-pointers per game. Vooch is averaging 21 points per game. That's the most that he's had since his first year in Chicago in 2020-21. And Vooch is just across the board offensively. Vooch is having such a good season for the Bulls. And outside of just what the stat sheet tells you, when you see Vooch in these games, he is playing really well in the clutch for the Bulls. He's stepping up, making big buckets at the right time. For that, when the team and the offense kind of stagnates, I should say, Vooch is the guy that they usually go to. He's kind of stepped into that DeMar DeRozan role when the Bulls need a calming factor. When they need somebody who can just get a bucket, it's really been Vooch more times now. Now, it's been Zach LaVine in some of those scenarios as well, but it's really, for the most part, been Nikola Vucevic by a large margin, right? And so that shows how much Billy Donovan trusts him. That shows how much he's playing. And I always go to say it shows how much that Nikola Vucevic is performing when he's now kind of getting more naturally to his spots again, which is a big thing for Vooch. Vooch is playing with more confidence than we've seen for a while. Defensively, though, it's been the same Vooch. When Vooch is on the court, teams are scoring 5.1 points more per 100 possessions. They're shooting the ball 2% better effective field goal shooting percentage. They're turning the ball over actually less when Vooch is on the court. So, you know, those things, again, just to put it in perspective for Nikola Vucevic and what he's able to do. Defensively, it's still a thing. But the question that we're here to answer is not just how good Vooch's season is or not. It's, can Nikola Vucevic be an all-star this year? And that's the question that we're here to answer when it comes down to it. And I'll tell you what, there are centers that are having better, like, efficiency numbers than Nikola Vucevic. Not a lot, but there are some that are doing that. There are not a lot of centers that are scoring better than Nikola Vucevic, though, and that's kind of the thing that really makes a big difference in it. Vooch right now, as far as offensive rating, is the 22nd best center as far as offensive rating, but some of those numbers are skewed by players who just don't play a lot of minutes, but they're efficient. The defensive rating, though, Vooch it's not good. It's not good. Vooch has a defensive rating of 118 on the season, an offensive rating of 115, but with that said, can Vooch get in to the All-Star game? And I think, I've had to kind of correct my thinking on this. I think that Vooch has a chance. When you look at some of the best centers in the league right now, right? Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, Victor Wembanyama. Joel Embiid is starting to work himself around as well, but he hasn't played a whole lot of games. He's probably not going to hit the number needed. Jaren Jackson Jr., Nikola Vucevic. And then when you take that and look at the Eastern Conference for that, Karl Anthony Towns and Embiid are the only ones in the Eastern Conference. So because of the conference aspect of it, I think that Vooch got a chance. I think Vooch got a chance. Bam, okay, good Bam, but Bam is ranked down there in the 16. So Bam does have a chance, but Bam's season has started off kind of slow as well there, Rob. So I think Vooch has a chance to get in as an all-star this year. I think he actually has a better chance than Zach LaVine personally, because Zach has kind of tapered off as the season has gone on. And listen, he's still shooting efficiently. Zach LaVine himself is having the best true shooting percentage of his career. He's shooting 63% true shooting, which is actually tied for the most in 2020-21 did Zach LaVine have. His turnover rate has really gone up as well. We got to get that together. His usage rate is up a little bit over last year. And so Zach hasn't really kind of stayed at the level when he was averaging about 25 points per game. He's down at 22 right now, which is still good on good efficiency. But guards in the NBA, it's harder for guards in the Eastern Conference. I think Vooch has the easier path at the position, right? I think, Karl Anthony Towns is in the East now. I almost forgot about Karl Anthony Towns being in the East now. I don't know if I mentioned him or not. Well, great point. Great call out here, Rob. Great call out there. But Vooch has a path where he can be an all-star this year. Now, the all-star game happens after the trade deadline, if I'm not mistaken. So he'd have to be moved before then. But I do think that the season that Vooch is having, him being an all-star, could help his trade value. I'm not saying that it's going to make it great, right? But I do think that it could help that trade value. And this goes back to the Bulls. Can they strike while the iron is hot? If that's what they want to do. Reginald says, I think the Bulls will be buyers at the trade deadline. Reginald, you got to have assets to be buyers. I don't think that that's the case. Reginald, Giddey can't be moved at the trade deadline. You can't move him at the trade deadline. With him being a restricted free agent, he can't be moved at the trade deadline. So that's not a possibility. He would have had to be moved before the season started. So no, Josh Giddey's not going to be moved at the trade deadline there, Reginald. But I understand where you're going. There. But then when you look at Zach LaVine, let's spend some time, less time looking at Zach, because Zach has gone down some. But 22 points per game he's averaging, 50% shooting from the field, 43% shooting from the three-point line, and 80% shooting from free throw. Just missing out on being a 50, 40, 90 player. He's also averaging 4 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game, 22 points. But the thing with Zach that I said, the reason why I think Zach has a harder path is just the position. I just think when you look at guards in the Eastern Conference, it's going to be a little bit harder for Zach LaVine to make that All-Star game. When you look at guards in the Eastern Conference and what they're doing right now, you got LaMelo Ball's having an amazing statistical season, leading all guards in the East in scoring. I think he has a really good chance to make it as well. Dame is averaging 25, right? Jalen Brunson's averaging 24. Tyrese Maxey, Tyler Hero's having a great season. Cade Cunningham's having an amazing season. Then you got Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, Scotty Barnes, who just got hurt, Darius Garland. Then you get to Zach LaVine. So I think that, Zach may have a chance, but I do think that overall, it's going to be a harder path for Zach LaVine to make the All-Star game this year. And the Bulls just, not to say that there haven't been teams with non-winning records that haven't had 2 All-Stars before, but I just don't think necessarily that the Bulls are going to get the votes needed, whether it be coaching decision or anything else, to get 2 All-Stars. I can see them getting 1. And if it's that 1, I could see it being Nikola Vucevic because of what we laid out here. But I think Zach LaVine is going to have a harder path going forward to make that all-star team personally. That's just my personal thoughts. As always, you guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic can make it. And I know if they do, there are going to be a lot of Bulls fans that their trade value. We'll see what happens there. overall, but I'm just glad these guys are having seasons to where it's actually a conversation that can be had, and a reasonable conversation that can be had for our Chicago Bulls. But we're going to take a brief break. We're going to get into a message from two of our sponsors, and the first one, that one's FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Been telling you guys all season long how much of a leg up that can give you if you guys are bettors to make your informed bets, to be able to make informed bets on the same page where you place your bets. You get all the information that you need to make a smart bet. Make a smart bet. Plus, if you make a smart bet and win, FanDuel is going to give you a bonus. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I also got to get into a message from another one of our sponsors, and that is Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans and jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless service plans starting at $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. $40 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower, above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited data plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans. So thank you guys for tuning in as always and sticking it out with your boy here, Hayes, over on Locked On Bulls. And the next topic that I want to talk about. So the Bulls had a scrimmage practice today, which apparently was very competitive and physical. Patrick Williams was a full participant in practice. And the thing that I want to actually talk about this with, right? I've made a lot about the Bulls lineups and managing personnel. Now, with Patrick Williams looking like he's on path to return for the Chicago Bulls, the question that I want to ask you here is how much of the lineups will change for the Chicago Bulls? How much of it should change? Now, I know a lot of Bulls fans are holding out hope that that our boy Modest Vucevic turns into a starter for the Chicago Bulls. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. Personally, I do think that Modest is probably going to stay coming off the bench for at least the foreseeable future. Not saying that that's going to be the case for the full entire season, but I don't think they're going to rush him from being positive to all of a sudden going right into, I should say, being a starter. But now you have Patrick Williams coming back. And Patrick has been an important part of the Bulls defense anytime it's even looked halfway decent. One of the reasons why the Bulls defense has looked so bad lately is because that the way Billy Donovan or Wes Unseld Jr. as the coach of the defense was using Patrick Williams was really, Patrick wasn't guarding the best players out on the wing anymore. He was using Patrick Williams to guard centers and power forwards and bigs. And, as, Billy Donovan has grown that, and Patrick Williams' actual defensive rating has been better when he's guarding centers than out on the wing. That's the question that has to be asked. Is how much of that needs to continue to change for this Bulls team? Does Patrick Williams stay being, that player and that starter? And also, I think when you look at the ebbs and flows of the Bulls lineups, right? The one thing that's overarching that everybody's been asking about when it comes to this is, do you eventually sit Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu? All right, and this is why I put change, right? And not necessarily the starting lineup. I don't think Billy Donovan is going to drastically change the starting lineup. I do think that Patrick Williams is going to go back into the starting four. I think everything else is basically going to stay the same. But even with the starters staying the same, The way that you can work in different lineups with those starters is how you balance their minutes. And with the way that Iowa's had a resurgence over the last few games as well, I think that it's warranted to say, hey, at the 4 minute mark of the quarter, Io DeSumo should come in. Who he comes in for should be dependent upon how that game is going, right? If we do need a little bit more defense, if the offense is cooking, whatever it is. And then if you do that, what that allows you to do at that point in time is that it allows you to stagger either Josh Giddey, who's played really well with the bench unit, or Kobe White with that bench unit to kind of maximize on what they do best. If you're staggering Josh Giddey with that bench unit, it allows him to be the facilitator, right? It allows him to be that guy with the offensive IQ for these players to help them get out in transition, to get them the ball if they cut, to make those smart decisions. Now, defensively as well, it helps cover up some of Josh Giddey's limitations, right? Because then at that point, Josh Giddey's playing with a Dalen Terry, a Julian Phillips, a Jalen Smith, right? He's playing with some of those guys at all points in time. And then, again, maybe you stagger one in the first half and one in the second half. It's not rocket science. It's not surgery, but it's just a little bit of tweak can really help you get the most out of your lineups. And that's really what I want to see from Billy Donovan. Same thing with Kobe, right? Kobe has shown himself when he's on ball and able to be a little bit more ball dominant. He makes good decisions with the balls outside of the dry. The one thing I want to eliminate from every Chicago Bulls player is when you penetrate the defense and you make a last-second pass out of the paint and then it turns into a turnover. We got to cut that part of the Bulls offense. And every guard does it except Io. Io's probably the only guy who doesn't do it. He's the only guy that doesn't do it. Zach does it. Kobe does it. Giddey does it. Oh, and Lonzo. Lonzo doesn't do it either. Lonzo and Io are the only two that don't do it. But story for another day. I just want to see Billy Donovan get to the place of actually coaching. That's listen, and maybe that's too much to ask. It might be too much to ask, but you got to actually coach these young guys. We don't have the type of roster to where you can just throw guys out and say, figure it out. You got to coach. You got to manage things. You got to manage personality, well, not personality, skill sets. You got to do that. And that's something we got to get better at. We got to get better at. And also maybe unlock some half-court offense as well, because we're terrible half-court offensively. Rob, great point. Hopefully these practices, the communication and defense improves. Well, the communication, yes. The defense, I just don't see a very high ceiling much more than what this Bulls team has done defensively already. I would love to be surprised by that, but I just don't see it. Fast break threes to sometimes go for a layup is no shot blocker. If no shot blocker. Agree with you on that one. Staxy, LaVine is better than Brunson and Trae Young. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. Okay. I mean, hey, everybody has a wrong response. Like now, Trae. I'm not the biggest Trae Young guy. I'm just not. But Zach is not better than Jalen Brunson, not yet. Personally, he hasn't shown the clutch gene that Jalen Brunson has shown. You look at the run that Jalen Brunson was on as like an MVP run for the last quarter of the season. But, that's just my thought process on it. I'm late. What did I miss? Did y'all determine if Zach and Vooch can be all-stars this year? You got to go back and watch, Gino. You got to go back and watch. Go back and watch. But, yeah, so I really hope that lineups change. And, again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying starting lineups because I just don't think Billy Donovan's going to make that change. But it doesn't have to be that you make changes to your starters to make changes to the way that and the personnel and manage that personnel. That's what you have to do. And I think that if this coaching staff as a whole get to the place of doing that consistently, we'll see a much different result. And kind of players just get more naturally out to things. We don't balance our skill sets very well. And that's something that Billy Donovan does have control over. That's something I would love to see Billy Donovan just get a better grasp on as a head coach. But some are going to say, Hayes, Billy Donovan is who he is. He's shown us who he is for years. And I will say this. I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to keep hope alive. I'm keeping hope alive, and that's all I can say on that one. I'm going to keep hope alive for my squad and my team, man. But, yeah. Terry in there says, given how the East is and how he's playing, I can see Vooch getting in. that's kind of what we got to. That's definitely kind of what we got to as well. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, hopefully Billy Donovan learns to manage those rotations a little bit better. And if he does, we'll see if that leads to some better results in certain areas for the Bulls. And if it does help raise the ceiling. But we're going to get into a message from another one of our sponsors, and that is Game Time. Catch you guys on the other side of this. There's nothing like the rush of watching an NBA game live. The roar of the crowd, the squeak of the sneakers, and the thunder of the game-winning dunk. Whether you're catching your favorite team this season or grabbing tickets for a rival matchup, Game Time makes it even easier to get great seats. With Game Time Picks, the app curates the best deals so you're not stuck scrolling through endless ticket options. Plus, the apps lets you preview panoramic seat views before buying, and the all-in pricing means no hitting fees at checkout. You got to toggle that on, and Game Time has your back. The lowest price guarantees ensures you always get the best price. They'll even credit you 110% of the difference if you find a better deal. Plus, the ticket coverage includes job loss assurance and event cancellation protection. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code, that's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, y'all. I want to remind everybody that Locked On Bulls does have a daily newsletter. Just go to LockedOnDaily.com. Go to the Chicago Bulls, sign up for the Locked On Bulls daily newsletter, and you get an inbox from me every single day. Not the inbox you may want, though. What does that mean? I'll let you figure that out. But with that said, man, I want to get into the last topic for today. Real quick one on this. On yesterday's episode, I asked, which one of the Bulls' young players are keepers? And I want to flip that now for the conversation today. Quicker topic here because I'm not going to go as in depth. Which of the veterans on this team are keepers for the Chicago Bulls? That's what I want to talk about. And this is a mixed bag of things when you look at it, because some could say, well, every veteran should be traded because we want to go younger. You can get some assets. Teams may want these veterans. And I would say to you on that one, I feel you. But I think every team has to have some veterans around. So let's play this game real quick. Nikola Vucevic, is he a keeper? Yes, but because he's a keeper, that may be why he's traded. I think that the way that Nikola Vucevic is performing right now, you can absolutely make a case for him being a keeper stat-wise, but I think when you look at the situation that the Bulls are in, Vucevic is an expiring contract, he's 34 years old, and while he's on a reasonable contract in this last year, the Bulls could realistically be looking to move on from Nikola Vucevic, and, we'll see if he's a keeper or not. Torrey Craig, 33 years old, not playing really in the Bulls rotation once players are healthy. I think that Torrey Craig is one of the veterans here that you have to shop by any means necessary. I think you just got to shop Torrey Craig. He's not part of your rotation. You got enough depth there at that position, that 3-4 position. And I think that if a team is offering you a second-round pick for a player that's on the vet minimum, you move him. Then on top of that, even if you're not moving Torrey Craig solo, because he is on a vet minimum deal, it does make him eligible to be included in a larger trade as well. So I think when you look at Torrey Craig, I don't think if I had to be a betting man, Torrey Craig is not here after the trade deadline. Next up, Javon Bald-Headed Carter. I would love to say that he's not here after the trade deadline. I would love to be able to tell you guys I feel extremely confident that we are going to rid ourselves of the bald-headed menace, the doppelganger of Javon Carter. I would love to be able to tell you guys that. But unless he's part of a massive deal to where we got to send out salary and create roster spots, I unfortunately think that Javon Carter is still going to be on this roster. I just think that he will be. And I'm not necessarily happy about that, but I got to be realistic with where it is right now. Yeah, I think that that's the case. Chris Duarte, interesting case. Chris Duarte making a little over $6 million for the Chicago Bulls. Could he be included in a larger deal? Yes. He's 27 years old. He's in his fourth year in the league. I do think that Chris Duarte as filler, but because I don't know if the Bulls are guaranteed to make a large deal, I'm going to say that Chris Duarte is still here after the trade deadline, but he's not. He doesn't get a second season with the Chicago Bulls. Last player to talk about, and it's weird because he's the same age as the young players we talked about, but Taylor Horton-Tucker. And I'm going to say this on THT. Vet minimum deal, playing really well right now for the Chicago Bulls. Easily movable thing. I think that THT also, the added aspect of THT's contract is that he's non-guaranteed up until January 10th. So if the Bulls do make a move before then, he could be traded to a team. That team can then immediately waive him and save some money. So I think that there could be a case that THT, honestly, I think there may be a higher chance than not that THT may not be on this roster after the trade deadline, in my personal opinion. We'll see. We'll see. We will see. We will see. But all of them can go. I want to be clear here. Torrey Craig, Javon Carter, Chris Duarte, THT, they all can get up. They all can go. Every single one of them to go. I wouldn't miss them at all. The human white flag and Javon Carter, Spicy Denzel Valentine, Chris Duarte, you can send them all out of here, man. You can send them all out of here. But let me know you guys' thoughts down below. Which veterans are still on this roster after the trade deadline? I'd love to hear from you guys on that one. Otherwise, make sure you guys are following the channel at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me personally at CEO Hayes. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV. Basically, if you want Locked On Bulls on your TV or in your ears, it's easy to get us. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See red. I'll see you lovely and beautiful people tomorrow. Peace, y'all.